Hi everyone! As a self-taught artist, I made a lot of mistakes, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. Each one has taught me a valuable lesson that helped me grow. Today, I'm sharing 7 lessons that I learned along the way, and I hope they inspire you to keep experimenting and learning. Let's dive in. The first one is something I know in theory but still struggle with in practice: patience. On this piece, I was working on the background, and instead of waiting for the paint to dry properly, I rushed ahead. At the time, I thought it's fine, I will just blend it out later, but that doesn't always work with watercolor. I ended up with muddy spots where I wanted soft light. This next one is all about planning ahead, or in my case, not planning ahead. I almost never swatch my colors or decide on a color palette before starting, and I definitely pay the price for that. For example, here's one of my recent sketchbook art. I didn't pick a color palette beforehand, and while I'm happy with some parts of it, it would have been so much better if I'd known my colors in advance. For next year, I'm challenging myself to improve this, and maybe we can swatch all my colors together in another video. If that sounds fun to you, let me know in the comments. And on this spread, I actually love the colors I ended up with. But look at this flower. It's way too short and proportions feel off. Why? Because I didn't plan the placement on the page. Taking just a little time to map things out can make such a big difference. I'm not saying that if I had better quality paper, this portrait would have turned out perfect. Trust me, it wouldn't. But the way this paper absorbs wet media makes it almost impossible to work with. This paper, for example, isn't even labeled as watercolor paper, so it's no surprise that it doesn't hold up. But if you compare that to proper watercolor paper, like this one, which is Strathmore's 400 series, it's a night and a day difference. Material quality does matter. Even if you are just starting out, it doesn't have to be the most expensive, but choosing decent quality paper, brushes, and paints can make the process a lot easier and way more enjoyable. Let's talk about brush pens. I will be honest, I don't have a great relationship with them. Every time I try to layer or mix colors, I end up with overlaps that feel harsh and unbalanced. See here, the transitions just aren't smooth, and it's really frustrating. But here's what I've learned. It's not just about knowing each material individually. It's about understanding how your tools interact with each other. For example, I know this sketchbook well. It's my most used one. I trust it because I know exactly how much water it can handle and how my paints behave on its pages. If you're someone who loves using brush pens, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your tips because I feel like there's so much more I could learn about them. This lesson was a tough one for me. I tried to create a snowy winter scene here, but I didn't get the snowy effect I wanted. Then instead of stepping back, maybe watching some tutorials and try again, I kept adding white paint, which only made it worse. When things don't go as planned, it's tempting to keep pushing, but sometimes that just leads to overworking on your piece. If I would stopped and taken a break, I could have come back with a fresh perspective and maybe salvaged it. Taking breaks isn't just about letting paint dry. It's also about letting your mind rest. For example, on this spread, I didn't realize I was tired until it was too late. Sometimes I get so absorbed in my work that I forget to eat or even take bathroom breaks. Look at this section. I rushed through it and you can tell I wasn't enjoying it anymore. It's like when you're doing homework for your least favorite class and just want to get it over with. But I've learned that stepping away, even for a few minutes, can make a world of difference. It helps you reset and come back with fresh energy. This one is a biggie, fundamentals. I know they're not the most exciting thing to learn, but they're essential. For example, I struggle with perspective, composition, and simplifying objects into basic shapes. Instead of breaking it down into simple geometric shapes, I dove straight into the details. If I had started with basic shapes, the proportions would have been much better, and I wouldn't need to give them silly names. And then there's composition. It is one of those things that feels so simple in theory. Pick a focal point, create balance, and guide the viewer's eye. But in practice, it's something I struggle with, especially when I get caught up in the details. It's definitely an area I'm working on. Take this piece for example. I actually like a lot about it. The colors work well, and some of the details turned out better than I expected. But here's the issue, there is no clear focal point. Your eyes don't really know where to land because there are multiple elements competing for attention. This creates a bit of visual chaos. If I would choose one main area to highlight and let the other elements support it, this piece could have been so much more impactful. I know fundamentals can feel daunting, but trust me, they're worth it. Even practicing a little bit at a time can make a big difference in your work. Last but not least, be brave. Once you have a basic understanding of the fundamentals, the next step is to trust yourself and make bold decisions. For example, in this piece I made for Pitch Tower, I hesitated when drawing the floor. I wasn't sure if I could pull it off, so I used the lightest, most cautious lines. Looking back, if I would been braver and trusted my instincts, the lines would have been much stronger and the piece would have looked better overall. Being brave doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. It means you are willing to take risks and learn from them. That's where the magic happens. And that's it. 7 lessons I've learned from my mistakes as a self-taught artist. I hope these stories encourage you to embrace your own journey, mistakes and all. Every mess up is a stepping stone, and each one brings you closer to finding your style and voice. If any of these lessons resonate with you, let me know in the comments and feel free to share what you have learned from your art journey too. Thanks for watching and keep creating.